Hi YouTube, welcome to another Black Desert Online Grind Zone guide. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Elvia Quint Hill Grind Zone. In this video, as always, I will cover the stats you need, gears and crystals I use, buffs used, the rotations in the zone, the mechanics of the zone, how to clear here optimally, what the dangerous attacks are, and lastly, an overview of the drops you can inspect in an average hour from here. As always, you can use the timestamps on the timeline or in the description below to skip to the parts you're interested in. But without further ado, let's get into it. I will start off with stat requirements to grind at the spot. All stats discussed here will be based off the stats in the My Stats window on your character sheet, and the AP caps for the Quint Hill Zone are as follows. The 100% cap is at 815 total AP, and the zone has a 5% soft cap starting at 920 total AP. If you don't know what total AP is, you can find your total AP by opening up the My Stats window and adding your Awakened or Main Hand AP, depending on the spec you chose, to your extra AP against monsters to get your total AP. You should also keep in mind that if you are past the soft cap, these mobs do count as demi-humans, so you can use demi-human species damage to boost your damage further. Obviously, the more AP you have, the better. As for the DP requirements here, I really wouldn't grind here with anything less than 401 sheet DP, and as always, you can grind here with less than I recommend, but do so at your own risk, because taking hits from the large troll here can be a bit scary with less defense. Up next, we'll go over the gear and crystals I used in the hours I grinded in order to make this guide. Now, normally I would just show you the gear that I used, but the hours I did to create this video were spread out over a long period of time. So my gear did change drastically from the start to the end of the grind hours that I did. So what I will show you is the gear I started grinding here with, and keep in mind the stats that I have currently are much higher than what you see on screen now. So you might see some inconsistency in my trash per hour as you see more current hours. You might also want to take note that I am using demi-human damage in my lightstones, as the trolls do count as demi-human monsters. As for crystals, you can see I focus purely on damage as there are no CCs to worry about in this spot. And it is also important to note that the soft cap here is only 5%, as I mentioned earlier, which means that only 5% of your AP past the 920 cap will count. This makes demi-human damage extremely powerful if you go past the cap. So much so that even putting on an iron weapon, which is a green main hand weapon as seen here, to get a lot of demi-human damage is usually beneficial as long as you can stay at least 920 total AP even after taking your Black Store or Sovereign weapon stats off. Next up are the buffs and consumables I used, which are what you see on screen now. I opted to use Horse AP buff, Church, Villa, Food, and of course, my Alchemy Stone. It is also important to note that this spot is good to use Agrasat. So having that active is important as well, as it will greatly increase your silver per hour. I chose these buffs mostly because I am stingy when it comes to spending money on buffs or grind zones. You definitely can opt for a Harmony Demi-Human Elixir as well, for extra damage if you want. The silver cost of the buffs will be a bit higher, but you will definitely clear noticeably faster by using them. With the setup for the grinding out of the way, we can move on to the rotations of the zone. The rotations of Quint Hill are more like traditional grind spots in that you'll be moving around and not just sitting at a tower. Each rotation consists of 2 packs of mobs that you move between. The rotations can be found at all of the locations shown on this map, and if you have enough AP and are on certain classes, it is also possible to do a double rotation, consisting of 4 packs of mobs. That strategy, however, will be covered in a later portion of this video. Next, we will go over the mechanics for this area. Each pack in a rotation will contain 2 large frozen trolls. One will be surrounded by 3 smaller trolls, and the other will have a purple magic circle around it, as shown on screen. You will always start a pack by killing the 3 small trolls first. This will wake up the large troll they were surrounding. You will then DPS this large troll until it gets to around 50% health. At this point, the troll will become invincible and fall down, and this will also cause a large number of smaller trolls to wake up in the surrounding area and immediately aggro you. At this point, you want to stand on top of the other large troll that has the magic circle around it to group every single small troll on top of it, like what you see here. When they are grouped up enough, you will then burst the large stunned troll down. It is extremely easy to kill and will go down very fast. This will spawn a large area that will stun the small trolls and give them a massive defense reduction. While you are doing all this, the large troll, which went invincible previously, will have gotten back up and re-aggroed onto you. Typically, by the time you have stunned the group of small trolls after grouping them, the large troll, which has resurrected, will be on top of you again. From this point, you will simply DPS all the stun trolls down while trying to also hit the large troll as much as possible. Keep in mind that you will have to be aware of the large troll's attacks, as it does not get stunned like the small one. Once you have killed the large troll and small trolls off, that completes the pack. You will then move on to the next pack and repeat this exact same process. That is the basics of the spot, and with the basics covered, we can move on to some tips and tricks on how to optimize your clear. First off, as I said earlier, is that you can use an iron main hand weapon to boost your demi-human damage even further, as species damage scales beyond the cap. It ignores that 5%. Remember to make sure you are still at 920 total AP with this weapon though, before committing to it. The other thing you can do to clear better, as mentioned earlier, is to do a 3 or 4 pack rotation. The best spots for this are the 2 rotations circled on screen here. It's important to note that not all classes are capable of doing this, as it heavily depends on how much movement your class has. If you can't move quick enough between the packs, this will not be more optimal. The way this works is you will only kill the 3 small trolls at each pack before moving on to the next. The reason for this is the large troll has a massive DP boost while in its wake up animation, as seen on its buff bar. Us only killing the small trolls before moving on means that by the time we come back around to the first pack, the large troll's defense buff will have expired. You will then go around to each pack you woke up and clear them normally from there. This results in you clearing each pack much faster than normal and can increase your trash per hour drastically. It is also important to note that this strategy is not possible in a normal 2-pack rotation, as the trolls will not respawn fast enough to do this. The last thing to cover when it comes to grinding at this spot is what is dangerous and can threaten to kill you. The only thing capable of killing you here is the large troll itself. In particular, the troll warrior is the most threatening one. This is the one with the giant club as seen on screen here. Most attacks he does are capable of chunking you very hard. They are, however, perfectly safe to forward guard, so when fighting it, you can choose to either dodge or block its attacks. It is extremely slow and lumbering as well, so it's quite easy to minimize damage from it as long as you're aware of the threat. That covers everything related to the grind itself, so we can move on to the drops and loot you can expect from the spot. As of recording this video, I have grinded a total of 28 hours at Elvia Troll Habitat, and as always, there will be a link to my Garmoth for this spot in the description below if you want to take a look at yourself, but all hours grinded here were also done with a level 2 loot scroll active as well as with Agris active. The average silver I got from grinding here after 28 hours was roughly 1.5 billion silver per hour, and you can see my hours on screen here. And when it comes down to your money here, the vast majority of it will come from the trash loot, which is why Agris plays such a big part at this spot. You usually get around 1 billion silver in just the trash alone, and because of this, the money here is extremely consistent, as trash is not dependent on RNG in any way. And while there are many spots that do make more money than this spot, the fact that this spot has such a low barrier to entry with its lower AP requirement and still makes over 1 billion an hour means this spot is still one of the better spots in the game. In conclusion, this spot is a very good spot to grind, as you can see from the information given in this video. It is particularly good for players who are just reaching early endgame, as it has a pretty low requirement, all things considered, especially with all of the easy AP gains we have these days through Karazad or sovereign weapons, or even just all of the insane crystals that we have available that weren't available when this spot was first released. So it is very accessible, which is probably the biggest plus side of this spot. The money being at least $1 an hour is also really good because it makes it competitive to a lot of the spots that people are aiming to grind these days. The only downside is the fact that to hit that $1 an hour, you do need to use Agris, and you do burn through a bit more Agris here than you would at other spots. You'll typically burn through around 33,000 Agris an hour here, so you really can only grind here for like 3 hours if you have full Agris. So that means this spot isn't going to be somewhere you can grind a lot, but it's definitely an easy spot to grind, and it's very chill, and the money is good enough to just burn Agris out if you're looking to get through your Agris without having to grind an insane amount of hours. But that will cover everything for this video, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you enjoy my content, I do stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/bluesky900 as well, so you can check me out over there if you want to. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.